So today we're going to talk about fermenting feed, and specifically we're doing chicken feed today. We are going to start experimenting with some pig feed, but we're experimenting. I'll tell you how that goes later on. We run off of a 3-day system. This is what we fed them today. This will be for tomorrow, and this will be the next day, okay? And I'm going to give you a few tips and tricks on how we do it. If it's colder, wherever you're storing this stuff, it might take 4 days. If it's a lot warmer, it could take 2 days. I'll even show you a trick that if you want to speed it up, you can get it down to 2 days, even if your normal thing is 3 to 4 days. Again, we run off of 3 days. We don't feed them nothing but fermented feed. It's 3 days. We have 3 jars. That's the system we use. In the summer, we're going to switch to 5-gallon buckets because we currently have 20 chickens, 19 are laying, 1's a rooster, and in our brooder over here, we've got another 24 that have survived so far, but they won't be getting that feed for another 3 months because they're only a week old right now. We'll be switching to 5-gallon buckets, but for now, in the winter, this is what we do. The benefits of fermenting feed for the chicken and for you. The number one thing for the farmer or the backyard grower, the homesteader, is that it reduces your feed costs. And it's really no work to do this. You literally put the feed in, you cover it with water, you let it sit for a couple of days, you feed it to them. That's it. You don't need to do much more research other than that, but basically that's it. They get more nutrient when you ferment it, right? So by fermenting, it actually pre-digests the food, essentially. It produces lactic acid and all this other stuff. And the chickens, when they consume it, they get more protein, more vitamins, more nutrients from the exact same feed just because it's been fermented. They get more, which means they eat less. Now, when we had backyard chickens and just, 9 chickens in the backyard, I was buying a 40-pound bag of feed, I think it was, 25-pound bag of feed every month. About once a month I was doing it. When I switched to starting to ferment a lot of their feed, I reduced that to 5 to 6 weeks I was buying. We had them grazing and stuff, and I didn't really super keep track of this stuff, but I just noticed, I'm here every 4 weeks. Now I'm not really here every 4 weeks, sometimes 5, sometimes 6. But summer versus winter, I didn't keep track of that. I just noticed that I didn't have to go buy a new bag every 4 weeks. And I think it was a little more than that, but whatever it was, I was extending it by a week or 2 of my feed. Again, that's only 9 chickens, so if we're gonna have close to 50 by the summer, it might extend it a day or 2, right? But a day or 2 over an entire year, that's a lot. As far as the chickens, again, they get more nutrients from it, so they eat less, they're healthier, they're hardier, and they get a lot more water. So with that water intake, they're not coming back to the water as often. I don't have to fill their water as often because we don't have automatic waters right now. It's winter, they would all freeze. I'm usually have to filling up their water at least once a week now, but before it was like 4 to 5 days, I was refilling their water. They consume less water, they consume less feed, they get more nutrients, they get better nutrition, which means you also get better eggs. It's really just a real big benefit, and it takes 30 seconds longer than it takes to feed them. The other thing about fermenting their feed is that it has the water in it, right? That makes it easier for them to digest, right? So it's already kind of broken down, it's softened up. They don't have to do as much of that, in their gizzard and their gut and stuff like that, right? And if you think about it, it's like trying to eat a cracker versus trying to eat an apple. You don't need to drink water or a liquid when you're eating an apple because it has liquid in it. It's pretty easy to digest. Take a dried apple and try to eat it, and then you get that sticky feeling, you kind of want to drink something. It's because you need more water. Dry food usually needs more water, so you're kind of adding the water, softening up, breaking it down. It makes it easier for them, right? So there's pretty much only benefits, really. If you're not fermenting feed, you should be. So I'm going to show you how we start it. Now, we actually started this one. Okay, or we started this one this morning. When we fed them this, I just take some of the excess liquid and I poured it into their feed. You'll be able to see the difference. This is actually ready to go. This is good. So I could feed this to them later today and start a new one in this one, but I'm just gonna feed it to them tomorrow. And so today's Monday, so this is Tuesdays and this is Wednesdays. This is gonna be Thursdays now that it's empty. So I just take the jar, and I've done this in plastic cups when I only had a few chickens. When we have more, again, we'll be using 5-gallon buckets. Why is this on so tight all the time? And you're gonna have to guess on this sometimes, but basically, I like to fill it up 1/4 to 1/3 way of whatever container you're using. Depending on your feed, you can go halfway, but I've noticed with the feed that we're using on this stuff, if I do it halfway, it's gonna overflow. I know, about 2.5 cups and I'm good. When we filled this one, it was actually down. It's already absorbing the liquid. When it ferments, it's gonna get up to about here, right? And then as it's kind of done fermenting, done breaking down, it's gonna go back down. But when it's rising, that's when you gotta be careful, because it'll actually expand to all of this for a short period of time, and then it will start to kind of go back down as the fermentation process finishes up, right? And you don't want it to go too long, because after it's done fermenting, it starts to go bad, because you can get mold, bacteria, other nasty stuff in here, and it goes bad. Let's go fill this up. And that is what, a quarter of the way? I know with this particular feed that we're using, if I do any more, it'll overflow, and tomorrow it'll push the water out. So I filled it up with water. Take the lid, loosely put it on. So I usually just put it on and there you go. So that way, if it falls over, it's not gonna completely spill out, but I don't even have a lid for this one. So I just took some aluminum foil. It's not tightly sealed. If you tightly seal it, as the fermentation process happens, it produces a lot of gases, and this thing will just explode. Not explode, right? But it'll come off and it'll start leaking out and stuff. You don't want that. Just loosely, we're done. Tomorrow, the next day, the next day. And you can see the difference in color and even texture. So this one's like finally broken down. It's all soaked. This is a crumble. I buy crumbles because they're cheaper. But this is a crumble. I've used like the scratch and peck feeds, which is really just like the ground up stuff. And even that will actually separate. So you'll get like a lot of the real small stuff that floats to the top, and the bigger stuff floats to the bottom. Whenever I use crumbles or pellets, it seems to just create this mash, which is fine. But you'll see the liquid darkens. This has a little bit of the liquid from this morning's batch to help speed up. So this will be ready in 2 days instead of 3 or 4. And then this one can actually sit for 3 days. Okay, so the last thing is that fermented foods are good for you, right? The main fermented food I think we all eat is bread. I made some bread. Nobody ate it. I actually tried a new method and it didn't come out so well. It tasted fine, but it was more crust than anything else. And it's sat for about 3 days. After 2 days, we tend not to eat it because it's too hard, too tough for us to eat. So I just break it down. I pour all the excess liquid onto this. And this is also like our table scraps, vegetable scraps and stuff like that. We put it in this bowl for the pigs. And every day when I drain out the liquid, I just pour it onto here for the pigs. So the pigs get a little bit of fermented liquid with the feed. Today, it's just bread for them. I poured it on the bread. We're gonna let it soak for a couple of hours just because I've already fed them breakfast. We'll feed this to them in a little bit. And that's how I get rid of the liquid. If you don't have pigs, you can actually just feed them all the liquid and everything. You can pour the liquid into a separate bowl. They'll drink it separately. What I usually do is I'll have like 2 bowls. I'll pour some of the liquid into their regular feed, and you wanna separate it from their actual dry feed, because if they don't eat it all in one day, it will go bad when it's sitting outside. I take a little bit, I'll soak some of this liquid into brand new food, then they kind of get this mash. They'll get the fermented food and another one. And then every night I just go make sure that they ate everything. If they don't, then I'll take it, I'll rinse it out. They just don't get it, and it becomes fertilizer at that point. But yeah, so if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, you know where to put them. Let me know. And if there's anything else I can follow up on, I will. But yeah, that's fermenting food. It's really not that hard. Nothing but benefits. There's no negative to it. And yeah, we like doing it. So reduce your feed costs, increase your chicken's nutrition, and yeah, I mean, that's it. That's all I got to say. See you guys on the next video.